I paid for everything, the venue, the catering, the decorations for my master's graduation party. No one came. Instead, they were at the house I pay for, hosting a movie night with my unemployed cousin. So I canceled every bill in my name and went silent. Before we continue today's story, we have an urgent announcement to make. Due to technical issues, we are pivoting towards another channel. Please subscribe to our new channel, Kin and Karma. You can find the link in the video description, the pinned comment, and the collaboration tag on this video. Make sure to switch over now so you don't miss out. Thank you for your support. Now back to the story. The ice in the champagne bucket had turned to slush hours ago. That was the first thing I noticed when I finally looked up from my phone, my eyes burning from staring at a screen that refused to buzz with the notifications I wanted. I was standing on the terrace of the Skylark, one of the most expensive rooftop venues in the city. The view was breathtaking, a panoramic sweep of the skyline, the buildings twinkling like spilled diamonds against the velvet navy of the twilight sky. The wind was gentle, carrying the scent of jasmine from the planters and the savory, rich aroma of the hors d'oeuvres that were currently getting cold on silver trays. I had ordered mini beef Wellingtons. I had ordered lobster sliders. I had requested the specific vintage of Pinot Noir that my mother, Jade, always claimed was the only wine worth drinking. I had rented the space for 4 hours. 3 of those hours were now gone. Waiters drifted past me like ghosts, their movements hushed and apologetic. They had stopped asking me if I wanted a refill. They had stopped asking when the guests would be arriving. Now, they just averted their eyes, wiping down pristine, unused tables and rearranging the centerpieces of white lilies that I had chosen because they were my father, Auguste's, favorite flower. I stood there in my emerald green silk dress, the one I had bought specifically for this night. It was supposed to be my victory lap. I was 26 years old, and yesterday, I had walked across a stage to accept my master's degree in human-computer interaction. I was the first person in my family to get a postgraduate degree. I was the first person in my family to make 6 figures, and I was the only person at my own party. Ma'am. I turned. The event manager, a kind woman with pity etched into the lines around her eyes, held a clipboard against her chest. The kitchen is asking if you'd like to start packing up the food. We can box it for you to take home. It's getting late. My throat felt tight, like I had swallowed a stone. Give it another 10 minutes, I whispered, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. Traffic is terrible on the bridge. They're probably just stuck. It was a lie. I knew it was a lie. She knew it was a lie. Of course, she said softly, retreating back into the shadows. I pulled my phone out again. No texts, no missed calls. I had sent the reminder group chat message at 9:00 a.m. Can't wait to see everyone at 6. The venue has valet parking. I had sent a follow-up at 5:30 p.m. I'm here early getting things set up. See you soon. Radio silence. My finger hovered over the Instagram icon. I had been avoiding it. I didn't want to see stories of my friends out at bars or people living their lives. I wanted to see my family. I wanted to know why my brother, William, hadn't answered his phone. I wanted to know why my mother, Jade, who had promised she would bring the cake, was invisible. I tapped the icon. The first thing that popped up was a story update. Not from my parents, not from William, from Bella. Bella, my cousin. The one who had borrowed $200 from me last week for a job interview outfit that I was fairly certain was actually a new set of acrylic nails. I clicked her story. The image filled my screen, bright and chaotic and loud. It was a selfie, taken from a high angle. Bella was in the foreground, her mouth open in a performative scream of excitement, holding a giant bowl of popcorn. Behind her was a living room I knew better than my own apartment. The beige sectional sofa. The oversized TV I had bought for Christmas 2 years ago. The walls painted the specific shade of agreeable gray that I had paid the contractors to apply. It was my parents' house. The house I paid the mortgage on, and there they were. Jade was laughing, her head thrown back, a glass of wine in her hand, likely a bottle I had bought for the house stock. August was sitting in his recliner, grinning at the camera, wearing his pajamas. My brother, William, was on the floor wrestling with the dog. The caption was slapped across the bottom in neon pink text, "Family Movie Marathon. Nothing beats a cozy night in with the best people. Family first movie night blessed." Time seemed to stop. The ambient noise of the city, the sirens, the distant hum of traffic faded into a high-pitched ringing in my ears. They weren't stuck in traffic. They weren't in a hospital. They hadn't forgotten the date. They had simply chosen not to come. I looked at the timestamp on the story, 14 minutes ago. They were watching a movie while I stood on a roof alone, surrounded by $2,000 worth of wasted food and decorations. They were laughing in a house that I kept warm, eating food I had likely paid for, celebrating absolutely nothing, while ignoring the biggest milestone of my life. I felt a tear slide down my cheek, hot and humiliating. I quickly wiped it away, terrified the waiters would see. But then something strange happened. The sadness didn't expand. It didn't crush me. Instead, it hardened. It crystallized into something cold and sharp in my chest. It felt like a heavy door slamming shut. I looked at the photo again. I zoomed in on my mother's face. She looked so happy. She didn't look worried about where her daughter was. She didn't look like a woman who had a daughter waiting for her. I opened my text messages. I found the group chat titled Margaret's Grad Squad that I had created months ago. I didn't scream. I didn't ask, "Where are you?" I didn't beg. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing with a steady, lethal precision. "I hope the movie is good. I just saw Bella's post. Don't worry about coming to the venue. I'm leaving now." I paused. I watched the 3 dots appear. Someone was typing. Probably William, or maybe Jade, finally realizing the time. I didn't wait for their excuse. I added one more line. "Good luck covering next month's bills without me." I hit send. Then, before the bubbles could pop up, before the inevitable flood of gaslighting texts, we just lost track of time. Or "You're being dramatic" could roll in. I went to my contacts. Jade, block caller; August, block caller; William, block caller; Bella, block caller. I shoved the phone into my clutch. I signaled the event manager. "Pack it up," I said, my voice steady, devoid of the tremor that had been there minutes ago. "Pack it all up. Donate the food to the shelter on 5th. Take the flowers home to your families. I'm leaving." As I walked to the elevator, the heels of my shoes clicking against the concrete like gunshots, I felt lighter than I had in years. The betrayal was worse than the loneliness, but the clarity. The clarity was absolute. The ride down the elevator was a blur of mirrored stainless steel and my own reflection staring back at me. I looked perfect. My hair was blown out in soft waves, my makeup was flawless, and the emerald dress fit like a second skin. I looked like a success story. Inside, I felt like a hollowed-out ruin. I didn't go to my parents' house. The urge to storm in there, to scream, to flip the popcorn bowl and demand an explanation was a physical ache in my muscles. But I knew what would happen. Jade would cry and say I was ruining the mood. August would get quiet and say I was being uppity because of my new degree. Bella would smirk and say, "Chill, Margaret, it's just a party. We see you all the time." They would make me the villain for being upset that they abandoned me. So, I told the Uber driver to take me to my apartment. I lived in a modern, starkly decorated 1-bedroom downtown. It was nice, but it wasn't a home. It was a place I slept in between working 12-hour days as a senior UX designer and working weekends freelancing to cover the family expenses. When I walked inside, the silence greeted me differently than usual. Usually the silence was lonely. Tonight, it felt protective. I kicked off my heels and threw my clutch on the sofa. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, my hands shaking slightly now that the adrenaline was fading. I sat on a bar stool and stared at the dark window. My phone, which I had placed face down on the counter, was vibrating, not ringing because they were blocked, but buzzing with other notifications. Voicemails. The block feature on my phone stopped the calls and texts from coming through, but it didn't stop them from leaving voicemails that would sit in a hidden folder, festering. I knew they were panicking. Not because they missed me, not because they felt bad, but because of the text. Good luck covering next month's bills without me. They probably thought I was bluffing. I had threatened to cut them off before. When William wrecked his car and needed a new one, I said no. then caved 3 days later because Jade cried about how he couldn't get to his part-time job, which he quit 2 weeks later anyway. When August needed dental work and didn't trust the insurance I provided, I paid out of pocket for the specialist he wanted. I had always caved. I was the responsible one, the fixer. The bank, but tonight was different. Tonight, I felt a physical revulsion at the thought of sending them a single cent. I walked over to my laptop and flipped it open. The screen glowed blue in the darkroom. I logged into my online banking portal. The numbers were there, stark and undeniable. Checking account, savings account, joint account Jade and August. I clicked on the joint account. It was the account I transferred $3,500 into on the first of every month. It covered the mortgage on their 4-bedroom suburban home, the utilities, the internet, and a generous grocery allowance. I looked at the transaction history. Yesterday, $150. Nails by Tina. Yesterday, $85. Liquor World. Today, $60. Pizza Palace. They were spending my money to throw a party I wasn't invited to. I clicked on the Transfers tab. Scheduled transfer, $3,500. Date, 1st of the month. The first was in 3 days. I hovered my mouse over the trash can icon next to the schedule. A wave of nausea hit me. This was nuclear. If I did this, the mortgage would bounce. The lights would eventually go out. This wasn't just a fight, this was war. They chose a movie over you, a voice in my head whispered. They chose Bella over you. They are sitting on a sofa you paid for, eating pizza bought with your labor, laughing at your absence. I clicked the mouse. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring transfer? Yes, I didn't stop there. I went to the utility provider websites. The electric bill was in my name. The internet was in my name. I didn't turn them off. That would be illegal in some cases without notice, and I didn't want to give them legal ammunition yet. But I removed my credit card from the auto-pay. I switched the billing preference to paper bill and changed the mailing address to their house. Let them see the physical reality of what electricity costs. I sat back, my heart pounding against my ribs. It was done. The financial umbilical cord was severed. My phone buzzed again. A notification from Instagram. Bella mentioned you in a story. I shouldn't have looked. I really shouldn't have. But the masochistic part of my brain needed to know the narrative they were spinning. I opened it. It was a video this time. Bella was filming Jade, who was looking weepy and holding a tissue. We're just so sad, Bella's voice narrated from behind the camera, dripping with fake concern. We tried to call Margaret for her big day, but she blocked us all. I guess big city life makes you too good for your family. We're still here for you, cuz, even if you hate us. She panned to William, who shook his head solemnly. Unbelievable, he muttered. Drama queen. I stared at the screen, my jaw slack. They weren't apologizing. They weren't panicking. They were spinning it. They were making me the aggressor. They were publicly shaming me for abandoning them, conveniently leaving out the part where they ghosted my graduation party. They thought they could guilt me back into submission. They thought this was just another tantrum from Margaret that could be smoothed over with a public guilt trip. I closed the laptop. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. They thought they had the upper hand because they were together and I was alone. They thought the story ended with me crying in my apartment, feeling bad about blocking them. But they had forgotten one crucial thing. The lease on the house wasn't a mortgage in August's name. We had refinanced 3 years ago when they almost went bankrupt. The deed was in my name. They were tenants. And in this state, tenants without a lease agreement were month to month. I wasn't just their daughter anymore. I was their landlord, and I had just decided to sell the property. To understand why a 26-year-old woman would evict her own parents, you have to understand Bella. And you have to understand the ecosystem of my family, where Bella was the sun and I was just the gravity that held everyone in orbit. Bella was my cousin, the daughter of my mother's sister who had passed away when Bella was 10. That tragedy was the defining moment of our family dynamic. Because of it, Bella became the fragile one, the one who needed extra love. The one who could never be told no because she had already lost so much. I understood that when we were children. I really did. I gave her my toys. I let her blow out my birthday candles. I stepped back so she could shine. But we weren't children anymore. Bella was 27, a year older than me. While I was pulling all-nighters in the computer lab during my undergrad, Bella was exploring her creativity in Europe on my grandparents' dime. When I was working 2 internships to build my portfolio, Bella was influencing on Instagram, which mostly meant posting photos of lattes and complaining about how hard it is to wake up before noon. Bella had never held a job for longer than 3 months. There was always a reason. The boss was toxic. The vibe was off. The fluorescent lights gave her migraines. And every time she quit, Jade and August were there with open arms. "She's trying to find herself," Jade would say, looking at me with disappointment because I was boringly stable. "Not everyone can be a robot like you, Margaret." Robot, that was their word for me. Because I showed up on time, because I paid my bills, because I didn't need to be bailated out of jail or debt. 3 years ago, my father, August, made a series of bad investments. He fell for a get-rich-quick crypto scheme that wiped out their retirement and put their house into foreclosure. They came to me. I was 23, freshly hired at a major tech firm, making good money for the first time in my life. "We'll lose the house," August had wept at my kitchen table, a broken man. "Your childhood home, Margaret." So I stepped in. I used my savings to clear the arrears. I refinanced the house in my name because their credit was shot. I took over the payments. "It's just until we get back on our feet," Jade had promised, clutching my hands. "You're our savior, Margaret." But until never came. August retired early because of stress. Jade stopped working part-time because she needed to manage the household. And then Bella moved in. Bella had been kicked out of her boyfriend's apartment, so naturally, she needed a place to stay. My parents gave her my old bedroom. Then they gave her the guest room for her closet. Suddenly, the grocery bill doubled. The electric bill tripled. Bella liked the AC at 68 degrees. I brought it up once 6 months ago. I was visiting for Sunday dinner and I saw a new designer handbag on the counter. "Is that a Chloe?" I had asked, doing the mental math. That bag cost more than the mortgage payment I had just made. "Bella treated herself," Jade said sharply, chopping carrots with aggressive force. "She's been depressed. She needed a pick-me-up. Don't start counting pennies, Margaret. It's unbecoming." "I'm not counting pennies," I had said. "I'm paying for the roof over your heads. If there's money for designer bags, there should be money for rent." Bella had burst into tears. "See," she wailed. "She thinks she owns us. She thinks just because she has money she can control us." August had slammed his hand on the table. "Enough, Margaret. We are family. We help each other. If you're going to hold your success over our heads, you can leave." So I left, but I kept paying. I kept paying because I was afraid. I was afraid that if I stopped, they would hate me. I was afraid of being the daughter who let her parents be homeless. I bought my love with monthly transfers. But the graduation was supposed to be different. This was my achievement. It wasn't about money. It was about effort, 2 years of working full-time while studying full-time. I wanted them to be proud of me, not my bank account. I had asked them months ago to save the date. I had reminded them weekly. And then I saw the photo. The antagonist of my life wasn't just Bella. It was Bella's influence. She was the whisper in their ear that said, "Margaret is fine. Margaret is rich. Margaret doesn't have feelings like we do. Margaret is the bank, not the daughter." That night in my apartment, staring at the blocked numbers on my phone, I realized the role I had been cast in. I was the villain in their story of struggling, noble victims. If they wanted a villain, I would give them one. I pulled up a new browser tab and searched for real estate attorneys near me. Then I opened my work email. I composed a message to the HR director at my company. Subject, relocation inquiry. "Hi Sarah, I know we discussed the London office opening a few months ago. Is that senior lead position still available? I'm interested." I wasn't just cutting them off. I was preparing to scorch the earth. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of headache that usually follows a breakup. My apartment was quiet, the only sound the hum of the refrigerator. I checked my phone. 37 missed calls, 11 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I made coffee, strong black coffee, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop. I needed a plan. Emotional reactions were for people like Bella. I was a UX designer. My job was to anticipate user behavior, identify pain points, and build systems that forced specific outcomes. My family was just a buggy system that needed a hard reset. First, I needed leverage, real legal leverage. I logged into the county clerk's website and pulled up the deed to the house. There it was, clear as day, owner, Margaret A. Vance. The mortgage was in my name. The taxes were paid by me. But then I remembered something my father had said 3 years ago when he was desperate. Just put it in your name for the loan, Margaret. We'll sign a lease so you're protected, just in case anything happens to me. We had signed a lease. A standard, 1-year residential lease agreement that automatically renewed month to month if neither party gave notice. Its stipulated rent was $1 per month, a formality to make it legal, plus utilities. Most importantly, it had a clause about unauthorized occupants. Section 12. Guests staying longer than 14 consecutive days require written landlord approval. Unauthorized occupants may result in immediate termination of lease. Bella had been living there for 6 months. I had never given written approval. In fact, I had verbally objected multiple times. I printed the lease. I highlighted Section 12 in neon yellow. Next, I called a lawyer I knew from my company's legal department, a sharp woman named Alina who specialized in property law. Alina, I said, skipping the pleasantries. Hypothetically, if I have tenants on a month-to-month lease who have moved in an unauthorized occupant and are damaging the property, how fast can I get them out? In this state, Alina asked, her voice professional and crisp, with a lease violation, you can serve a 3-day notice to cure or quit. If the unauthorized person isn't gone in 3 days, you can file for eviction immediately. But Margaret, are we talking about your parents? I'm talking about tenants, I said, my voice flat. Tenants who missed rent. Technically true, since the $1 was never actually paid, I just covered the mortgage directly. And tenants who have destroyed the relationship to the point of no return. Okay, Alina said slowly. If you want to go nuclear, here's what you do. Send a certified letter. Notice of lease violation. Cite the unauthorized occupant. Give them 3 days to remove Bella. If they don't, you terminate the lease. And if I want to sell the house? Give them 30 days notice to vacate for sale of property. That's cleaner. No court battle about Bella. Just I'm selling, get out. I thanked her and hung up. 30 days. That was the timeline. I spent the rest of the day drafting the letter. It wasn't emotional. It was a cold, hard legal document. Notice of termination of tenancy to August and Jade Vance property address. 124 Maple Drive, you are hereby notified that your month-to-month tenancy is terminated effective 30 days from the receipt of this notice. The owner, Margaret Vance, intends to list the property for sale. You must vacate the premises by date. I stared at the paper. It felt like holding a grenade. This was the house I grew up in. This was the house where I learned to ride a bike. But it was also the house where they sat last night, laughing and eating popcorn while I stood alone on a rooftop. I signed it. Then I did something even pettier. I logged into the family cell phone plan, which of course I paid for. I didn't cancel their lines. That would give them a victim story. Instead, I activated the parental controls feature. I set a data limit of 1 GB per month for each line. I blocked international calls. And for Bella's line, which I had foolishly added 6 months ago, I restricted data usage entirely between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Time to get a job, Bella, I thought, hitting Save Changes. Then I went to the post office and sent the certified letter. 3 days later, I was at work. My office was a sanctuary of glass walls and quiet productivity. I was in the middle of presenting a new app interface to the stakeholders when my receptionist, Sarah, knocked on the glass door. She looked pale. Margaret, she whispered, stepping inside. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there are people in the lobby. They say they're your family, they're causing a scene. My stomach dropped. I had blocked their numbers, so they had come to the one place they knew I couldn't ignore them. I apologized to the stakeholders. Family emergency, please excuse me, and walked to the lobby. I could hear them before I saw them. This is ridiculous. Jade's voice was shrill, echoing off the marble floors. My daughter works here. You can't tell me I can't see her. Ma'am, you need to lower your voice or I'm calling security, the guard said, his hand hovering over his radio. I rounded the corner. There they were, Jade looking frantic in a coat that was too warm for the season. August looking red-faced and embarrassed but standing his ground. And Bella was filming. Of course she was. She had her phone held up, recording the security guard. This is harassment. Bella was shouting. We're just trying to see our family. Stop, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise like a knife. They all turned. Margaret. Jade lunged toward me, arms open. Oh, thank God, we've been so worried. Why aren't you answering your phone? We thought something happened to you. I stepped back, putting a solid 3 feet of distance between us. I didn't let her hug me. I blocked you, I said calmly, because you missed my graduation. Jade froze. Her face crumbled into a mask of exaggerated hurt. Oh, honey, that was just a misunderstanding. We got the dates mixed up. We thought it was next weekend. Liar, I said. I sent reminders, you saw them. We're old, August blustered, stepping forward. We forget things. Is that a crime? To treat your parents like criminals because we missed a party. It wasn't just a party, I said, feeling the anger rise, hot and dangerous. It was my master's degree. And while I was waiting for you, Bella posted a photo of you all watching movies. I turned to Bella. She was still filming, the phone pointed directly at my face. Put the phone away, Bella, I said. I'm documenting this, she sneered. For my safety. You're acting crazy, Margaret. You cut off our phones. You sent us a letter saying you're kicking us out. Who does that? A landlord, I said, the word hung in the air. Landlord, Jade gasped. We're your parents. And you're living in my house, I said. A house I pay for, a house you disrespect. You treat me like an ATM, not a daughter. And when the ATM asks for one night of your time, you don't show up. We're family. August shouted, attracting stares from the employees walking by. You owe us. We raised you. And I paid you back, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I paid off your debts. I saved your credit. I put a roof over your head for 3 years. The debt is paid, Dad. You can't kick us out, Bella interjected, stepping in front of them like a shield. Squatters' rights, we have rights. I laughed. It was a cold, humorless sound. You're not a squatter, Bella. You're a guest who overstayed her welcome. And I have the lease to prove it. You have 27 days left. I suggest you start packing instead of filming. I turned to the security guard. Dave, these people are trespassing. Please escort them out. Margaret, no. Jade wailed, grabbing my arm. I pulled away violently. Don't touch me. You're destroying this family. She screamed as Dave gently but firmly guided them toward the revolving doors. Over a stupid party, you're selfish. You've always been selfish. I watched them go. Bella was shouting about her rights. August was cursing. Jade was sobbing. I stood there in the lobby, shaking. My colleagues were watching from the balcony above. It was humiliating. It was a disaster. But as I watched the revolving door spin them back out onto the street, I realized something. They hadn't asked how I was. They hadn't apologized for missing the graduation. They hadn't brought a card or a flower. They had only come because the money stopped. That was the confirmation I needed. The guilt that had been gnawing at me, the little voice saying maybe you're being too harsh, vanished. I went back upstairs. I walked into the HR office. Sarah, I said to the director, about that London position, how soon can I start? The next 2 weeks were a blur of logistics and silence. I had the London transfer approved. I would be moving in 6 weeks. That gave me enough time to sell the house and close this chapter of my life forever. But my family wasn't going quietly. Bella had launched a full-scale social media campaign against me. She posted TikToks with sad music, titling them, "When Your Rich Sister Evicts Her Elderly Parents." She cropped out the parts where I paid for everything and focused on my cruelty. Strangers were commenting, "What a monster," and she should be ashamed. It hurt, I won't lie, it made me want to scream. But then I got a call from my bank. MS. Vance, the fraud specialist said. We noticed some unusual activity on the authorized user card ending in 4598. That's the one issued to A. Bella Vance. I had given Bella an emergency card a year ago for groceries only. I had forgotten to cancel it in my initial rage because I rarely checked that specific sub-account. What kind of activity? Well, there was a charge for $2,000 at an electronics store, and another $1,500 at a luxury handbag reseller. And it looks like a cash advance of $500 at a casino. My blood ran cold. When? Yesterday and today. She knew the eviction was coming. She was maxing out the card before I cut her off. She was looting the ship before it sank. Flag them as fraud, I said. I didn't authorize those purchases, and cancel the card immediately. We can dispute them, the agent said. But since she was an authorized user, it might be tricky unless you can prove she wasn't allowed to make those specific purchases. I hung up and stared at my phone. This wasn't just ungratefulness anymore. This was theft. I realized I needed more than just a lease violation. I needed to know exactly where my money had been going for the last 3 years. I hired a forensic accountant. It sounded dramatic, but I needed the paper trail. I gave him access to the joint account statements, the credit card statements, everything. 3 days later, he sent me a report. It was damning. It wasn't just Bella's recent spree. Checks written to cash from the joint account endorsed by Bella Vance, totaling $12,000 over 2 years. Grocery withdrawals that coincided with dates Bella posted about going to concerts or festivals. Utility bills that were suspiciously high, which upon further investigation matched the energy consumption of a crypto mining rig. Wait, crypto mining. I looked at the report again. Spike in electricity usage consistent with high-load computing hardware. I thought back to the humming noise coming from the garage the last time I visited. August had said it was an old freezer. It wasn't a freezer. My unemployed cousin and my retired father weren't just watching movies. They were running a crypto mining operation in my garage, using electricity I paid for to generate digital currency that they kept. They were stealing power from me to make money they hid from me. That was why they couldn't come to the graduation. They weren't just watching a movie. They were likely maintaining the rig, or I zoomed in on a photo Bella had posted that night, the one of the movie marathon. In the corner of the frame, near the edge of the TV stand, there was a stack of boxes. Computer component boxes, graphics cards. They had bought new equipment. Probably with the money I sent for medical bills last month. The betrayal had layers. It was an onion of deceit. I printed the report. I printed the bank statements. I wasn't just evicting them anymore. I was building a criminal case. I called Alina, my lawyer friend. Change of plans, I said. We're not just evicting for sale of property. I need to file a police report for credit card fraud and theft of services. Margaret, Alina warned, that's your father. No, I said, my voice trembling with a mixture of grief and rage. That's a man who stole from his daughter to fund a gambling addiction and a mining rig. I'm done protecting them. If you do this, there's no going back. Good, I said. I don't want to go back. I looked at the calendar. The 30 days were almost up. They hadn't packed a single box. They were betting on me caving. They were betting on the family first guilt trip working one last time. They were about to lose that bet. The 30 days were up on a Saturday. I didn't just send a text. I didn't just wait for them to leave. I showed up at 9:00 a.m. with 2 sheriff's deputies, a locksmith, and a moving truck I had hired to take their belongings to a storage unit, paid for, of course, for exactly 1 month. It was raining. A gray, miserable drizzle that matched the pit in my stomach. I parked my car down the street and walked up the driveway. The house looked exactly the same as it always had. The lawn was overgrown. William had clearly stopped mowing since I stopped paying the gardener. The blinds were drawn tight. I nodded to the deputies. This is the address, I said, my voice steady despite my trembling hands. They were served notice 30 days ago. One of the deputies, a burly man named Officer Miller, knocked on the door. Hard, bang, bang, bang. Sheriff's Department, eviction notice. A silence. Then muffled shouting. The sound of footsteps, the door swung open. Bella stood there in her pajamas, hair messy, phone already in hand, recording. "You can't do this," she screamed, shoving the phone in Officer Miller's face. "This is illegal. We have rights. My uncle is sick." "Ma'am, step aside," Miller said calmly. "We have a court order." Behind her, Jade appeared, clutching her robe. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock. She saw me standing behind the officers, protected by their uniforms. "Margaret," she whispered, you brought the police." "I brought the owners of the house," I said, "and the law." "How could you?" August roared from the living room, stumbling into view. He looked disheveled like he hadn't slept. "To your own father, over a party." "It's not about the party, Dad," I said, stepping into the foyer. The smell hit me instantly, stale pizza, dog, and something metallic like ozone. The smell of electronics running hot. "It's about the crypto mine in the garage," I said. August froze. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a ghost. Bella lowered her phone slightly. "What are you talking about?" "The $12,000 in electricity you stole," I continued, walking past them toward the garage door. "The graphics cards you bought with my medical money, the credit card fraud." I reached the door to the garage and flung it open. The hum was deafening. There, on racks made of cheap metal shelving, were rows of computer parts, fans spinning wildly, lights blinking in the dim space. Cables snaked everywhere, plugged into every available outlet, and several extension cords that looked like fire hazards. It was hot in there, stiflingly hot. "My God," Jade whispered, staring at the setup. "August, you said it was a freezer. You said you were storing meat for the winter." I turned to my mother. "He lied to you too, Mom. Or maybe you knew. Maybe you just didn't care as long as the checks kept clearing." I didn't know," she stammered, looking from the machines to her husband. "August." August slumped against the doorframe, defeated. "It was an investment. It was going to pay off big. We were going to pay you back, Margaret, every cent." "With what?" I asked, Dogecoin, while I worked myself to the bone. I turned to the deputies. "Officer, I'd like to file a report for theft of utilities and unauthorized modification of property. And I want these people removed from my house immediately." "You can't," Bella shrieked, throwing herself in front of the rig. "This is my setup. I helped build this. It's my property." "Then take it," I said cold. "Pack it up, right now, because the locksmith is changing the locks in 10 minutes. The next hour was chaos. The movers I hired, big, silent men who didn't care about family drama, started hauling boxes out. Bella was screaming, live streaming the whole thing, crying about abuse and trauma. Jade sat on the sofa, sobbing into her hands. William, who had been asleep, packed a bag in silence, refusing to look at me. August tried to approach me one last time. "Margaret," he pleaded, reaching for my hand. "Please, where will we go? We have no money. The accounts are frozen." "I know," I said. "I froze them." "You're sending us to the street." "I'm sending you to a motel," I said, handing him a reservation slip. "Paid for 1 week. After that, you're on your own. Bella can get a job. You can sell the mining rig. Figure it out." "I'm your father," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "And I was your daughter," I said, my voice breaking for the first time. "I was your daughter and I needed you. I needed you to show up for me once. Just once. Instead, you stole from me." I pulled my hand away. "Get out of my house." The house sold in 2 weeks. It went to a nice young couple who wanted to raise a family there. I didn't feel sentimental when I signed the closing papers. I just felt relief. The check for the equity, minus the cost of repairs for the electrical damage in the garage, went straight into a high-yield savings account that no one else could access. I moved to London a month later. The distance was exactly what I needed. The gloomy weather, the new job, the anonymity of a city where no one knew my last name, it was healing. I didn't unblock them, but news travels. I heard from a distant aunt that Bella had tried to sue me for emotional distress and illegal eviction. The case was thrown out immediately because I had followed the law to the letter. She ended up having to sell the mining equipment for pennies on the dollar to pay her legal fees. August and Jade moved into a small, one-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of town. Jade had to go back to work as a receptionist at 60. August was apparently working security at a mall. William finally moved out and got a real job in another state, seemingly realizing the gravy train had derailed for good. 6 months after the eviction, I received a letter. It had no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was from Jade. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. I opened it sitting in a cafe overlooking the Thames. Margaret, it read, I know you probably won't read this. I know we don't deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that your father is in therapy. I am too. We realized we were broken people who broke you. We got so used to you being the strong one that we forgot you needed us to be strong for you. We are sorry. Not because we want money, we are managing on our own now, but because we lost our daughter. If you ever want to talk, we are here. Love, Mom. I folded the letter. I didn't tear it up. I didn't burn it. I just put it in my bag. I wasn't ready to talk. I might never be ready. Forgiveness is a heavy thing to carry, and right now, I was enjoying traveling light. I took a sip of my tea and looked out at the river. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a new friend I had made in London, a fellow expat named Sarah. Hey, we're all going to that rooftop bar tonight for drinks. You coming? I smiled. A real, genuine smile that reached my eyes. I'll be there, I typed back. And this time, I'm bringing the champagne. I wasn't the bank anymore. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the invisible daughter. I was Margaret. And for the first time in my life, I was free.